Let's travel back in time, way back, to the 4th century deserts of Egypt and Syria. I know you're thinking it seems like the last place on earth you'd look for advice on our crazy modern lives. But these early Christian monks, the ones we call the Desert Fathers, they developed this profound psychological wisdom that is, well, it's startlingly relevant today. So let's go on a kind of seeker's journey together and uncover it.
So, get this. There's a young monk, and he is just completely consumed by what he calls vainglory, which is basically just a fancy way of saying he's obsessed with what everyone thinks of him. He goes to an elder for help, and the elder just hits him with this incredible, totally deadpan response. It's so sharp, so ironic. It's designed to just completely shatter that self-obsession in an instant.
You know, that bizarre little exchange, it forces us to ask a really fundamental question. We think we know what humility is, right? Maybe putting ourselves down, thinking we're no good, but that elder's reply, it hints at something much, much deeper, something totally different. So let's figure out what on earth the fathers really meant by it.
Okay, so this brings us to the first major stop on our journey, true humility. For the Desert Fathers, this isn't just, a nice personality trait. It's the absolute foundation, the bedrock. Before you can even think about fighting any inner battles, you have to get this right.
And here is where they just redefine the whole game. Humility is not telling yourself you're worthless, because really, that's just another way of being obsessed with yourself. For them, true humility was an active choice. It was the decision to serve other people, and this is the really, really hard part, to joyfully accept criticism and even insults. Wow.
And this just lays it out perfectly. On one side, you've got the common idea, humility means putting yourself down. But on the other side, you see this radical shift. It's not about what you think of yourself at all. It's about how you orient yourself towards other people. The whole focus moves from me to you. It's a total flip.
This leads to this amazing paradox, and it's captured in this one story. There's a brother who is just being tortured by bad thoughts. He's desperate, so he goes to a great elder and begs him, "Pray for these to be taken away." The elder does, and poof, the struggle is gone. But what happens next? The monk, now that he's free from his trial, immediately becomes arrogant, prideful. He realizes his huge mistake and has to go crawling back, begging for the struggle, for the thoughts to come back. He finally understood that the struggle itself was the very thing keeping him humble.
So here's the crucial takeaway. For the Desert Fathers, our struggles aren't failures. They're not obstacles on the path to becoming a better person. They are the path. It's right there, in the wrestling, in the difficulty, that true humility is actually built. Without that fight, pride just rushes right in to fill the empty space.
So if struggle is what builds humility, how do we actually handle the source of that struggle? This brings us to the second phase of our journey, the battle of the mind. For these monks, the real war wasn't out there somewhere. It was fought right here in the inner arena of our own thoughts.
And their core strategy? It's laser-focused. They believe the enemy of your peace doesn't need an entire army of negative thoughts to take you down. Nope, it just needs one. One single thought that you stop and entertain, that you agree with, that you give your consent to. That's it. That's the one tiny crack where everything else gets in.
This is the cry of an elder who understood that principle perfectly. This guy had memorized 14 books of the Bible. 14! I mean, can you even imagine? But one single profane word that he overheard was enough to completely derail his prayer, wiping everything else from his mind. It just goes to show you how powerful one single unchecked thought can be.
So what's the game plan? Well, it's basically like military tactics for your mind. When you're facing this onslaught of thoughts, don't try to fight them all at once. You'll get overwhelmed. Step 1, examine the chaos. Step 2, identify the one-head thought. The general that's leading the charge. And step 3, focus all your energy on fighting that one thought. If you can take down the leader, the rest of the army just scatters.
Another key tactic they used was confession. They understood that these negative thoughts, they thrive in secret, in the dark. They just fester when we keep them locked up inside. But the moment you drag them out into the light, by revealing them to a guide or a trusted friend, they just lose all their power. It's like a snake that's been forced out of its hole. It can't stand the exposure, and it vanishes.
And that brings us to the final act of our seeker's journey. You've laid the foundation of humility, you've learned the strategy for the mind, but the fathers were crystal clear on this point. You cannot win this battle alone. You absolutely need a guide, a master.
But here's the thing. This relationship is a two-way street. One elder, a guy named Abbot Felix, was asked for some wisdom and he just said, "There are no more words." Why?
Because people would come and ask, but they wouldn't act on what they heard. The fathers believed that when a listener stops practicing, the grace of the word is actually withdrawn from the teacher. See, wisdom isn't some academic thing you collect. It's a living thing that requires an active, open heart to even be received.
Now, this is a question I think we can all relate to. Let's be honest. You hear something profound, maybe you're inspired for a moment, but then a week later you can't really remember the details. So, was there any point? Did you gain anything at all from it?
The fathers answered this with this just beautiful analogy. An elder tells a young monk to take a dirty, empty vase. He has him fill it with oil, then empty it out. Fill it up, empty it out, over and over and over again. Then he tells him to put that vase next to an identical one that was never touched. And what do they see? The one that had repeatedly held the oil, even though it was empty now, was significantly cleaner.
And there it is, the profound insight. The very act of filling our minds and hearts with wisdom purifies us. Even if you don't retain every single word, the process itself cleanses the soul, just like the oil cleaned that vase. The listening, the engagement, that is what's transformative.
And ultimately, some wisdom just can't be grasped by the intellect alone. When the disciples of Abbot Macario asked him to explain a really difficult saying, he didn't give them a lecture, he gave them a task. Purify your hearts. He knew that the understanding they were looking for wouldn't come from more words, but from a change deep within themselves.
And this was one of his sayings. It's a total puzzle, isn't it? It suggests that our normal way of seeing the world, our judgment, it's completely backward. We magnify all these trivial little things, and we completely overlook what's truly important. And according to Macario, the only way to fix that vision is not through more thinking, but through purification.
And so our seeker's journey through the desert ends. But in a way, it's also just beginning. The message that comes to us from the 4th century is crystal clear. The goal isn't just more knowledge or a bunch of clever techniques. The ultimate key to wisdom is a purified heart. And that brings this ancient path right to our doorstep with one simple, powerful question. Where will you begin?